Well, welcome everybody to this video. This video is going to be inside the Home Affordable Foreclosure Alternative, or abbreviated HAFA. And so I got my HAFA file here, all sorts of goodies in here, but the primary focus of this video in particular is going to be the timelines of HAFA, things that you should be aware of regarding the timelines. And then if I have time at the end of the video, I'll go and make some observations about some things within the HAFA timeline that you should be aware of. Really, this is going to be a good video for any sellers that are interested in pursuing a short sale through HAFA, and real estate agents who are trying to gather information so that they can successfully work through the HAFA process. So let's talk really briefly about what HAFA is. And it's all over the news, and it's probably tons of blogs and YouTube videos and all sorts of stuff. HAFA, Home Affordable Foreclosure Alternative, is the back end of the Home Affordable Modification Program. So in short, when somebody goes through modification or attempts to go through modification and they're either declined or they default on the modification, HAFA is the short sale alternative. So it would be the next step that's supposed to be automatically offered by the lender in the case of a default or a decline through the modification program that the Treasury Department put out. So that's kind of just a little bit of background, and then we're going to talk about timelines. So you're not going to be able to see very easily the actual timeline that I have in here. So what I did is I hand drew one here. If you're going to follow along and want to put labels on a piece of paper, go ahead and just copy this. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 solid lines coming out of this main line, and then in between number 2 and 3 you're going to have a dashed line, and then at the end of number 3 you're going to have another dashed line. And so if you want to pause the video right now and take out a clean sheet of paper and just put this diagram on it, that'll be a place that you can take notes and get a better understanding and have something to take away with you. Okay, so this is my version of it. This is my kind of noted version. So on that first line you're going to want to write trigger event. So the very beginning of the HAFA process has to do with a trigger event. Well, what are those trigger events? That would be, for example, failing HAMP, the Home Affordable Modification Program. That would be a trigger event that would move us into the HAFA timeline. A seller can actually go to the bank and request to be reviewed for HAFA. So that would be another trigger event. If they call up and say, hey, I want to sell my house on a short sale, and I want to be a part of the HAFA program so I can get my $3,000 moving money from the government, can you put me in the HAFA program? That would be another trigger event, which is right here. That's our first dash. In between those first 2 dashes, write 30 days. That's the timeline that the servicer has to evaluate whether or not there are other modification programs available, or if, for example, the seller calls up, the borrower calls up and says, I want to be a part of HAFA, the bank has to review them for a loan modification first to see if that is an option. So the very first 30 days is to see if they even qualify for HAFA, and to see if there are any other modification programs available for them. Okay, after this solid line here, in between that dash line here, you're going to put solicitation letter, 14 days. So once they've reviewed, assuming that the lender is going to offer them the HAFA program, there is going to be a solicitation letter that goes out. They're going to have the seller or borrower, those are used synonymously here, so a borrower from the bank's perspective, a seller if you're a real estate agent, that's who we're talking about here. They're going to have 14 days, calendar days, to respond to that solicitation letter, and that's what your dashed line is here. Borrower contacts servicer and requests HAFA. So the letter that goes out says you've been reviewed for and qualify for the HAFA program. Please contact us within 14 days if you want to participate in that. We're going to talk about timelines in a little bit, but the timelines are critical that you know and that you respond within the timelines. Okay, after the borrower responds, so after our dash line there, the distance, or that section between that and the next solid line, is the valuation period for the lender. So this is the part of the process. If you remember, HAFA has been promoted as an automatic way to do short sales. The lenders are going to do all of their review process up front, determining values of the property, qualification of the borrower, all of that information at the beginning before an agent supposedly even lists the house and gets any buyers involved to speed up the process. That's what's going to happen in that section right there. There is no timeline. They have not indicated a specific timeline that the banks have to review that. My guess is that it's going to be similar to the timeline we experience with the short sale. So it could be anywhere from 45 to 90 days depending on your lender. So expect that there's going to be some time happening there. The next solid line is servicer sends SSA. The SSA is the short sale agreement. This is a document, a HAFA document that's generated by the servicer and mailed to the homeowner. This is in essence the offer letter that the homeowner receives saying, okay, we approved you back here for the HAFA program, we evaluated everything, you qualify for a the HAFA process, here's what we determined the value of the property is. The real estate agent, of course, is involved in this part here too, because now they're saying, here's what the property must be listed for. It must be listed with a licensed real estate professional. And at that point, they're in essence giving the real estate agent what the minimum amount that they will accept in an offer on the property. Another 14-day response period. So between your SSA line and the next dash line is 14 days. The borrower has to review the SSA as well as the real estate professional, and they have to acknowledge, sign, and send it back to the lender. And it has to be back at the lender within the 14-day period. So that's a period of time where they're looking at that, making sure they have a real estate agent that they're going to be working with, etc. Okay, so from this dashed line, from the time that they receive the SSA back at the lender until this final line, that's 120 days. You can just write 120 days in there. That is your marketing period. So that's the minimum period that HAFA allows a seller to market the property from the time that the bank has agreed through the SSA to do the HAFA program until the HAFA program can expire, 120 days. That's our distance there in time frame. There is the possibility that a lender can extend that beyond 120 days if it expires up to a year. So after 12 months, there's no longer the option for someone to participate in HAFA. I don't have a lot of time left on the video, but let me just kind of go through a couple of things that I want to point out for you. As far as qualification in HAFA, if you didn't qualify for HAMP because your debt-to-income ratio was not correct, or you had a jumbo loan, the loan was too big, or anything that, for example, is not your primary residence, you're not going to qualify for HAFA. It's the same qualification guidelines for HAFA as for HAMP. So if you didn't qualify for HAMP on any of those main qualification items, then don't waste your time on HAFA because you're not going to qualify for that either. Now, if you qualified for HAMP but then were declined for a modification, or you defaulted on your modification, then you're a prime candidate for HAFA. Over here in the 120 days, well, actually, let's go back to our valuation. I've been saying, and if you watch any of my other videos on the HAFA process, I've been saying for a long time that this whole valuation section, this is the big problem that I see with HAFA, is that they're asking, or the bank is being required to evaluate the property way up here, potentially months before we even get to here where it's going to be listed and marketed for sale. The problem I see is in a declining market or a volatile market where values are going up and down, the value that an appraiser or a BPO agent gets way back here may or may not be an accurate value of what someone's willing to pay for it way over here. And that's going to create problems because for that 120 days, you have to market that property. You can't go below the minimum that that the bank has approved through HAFA. And that's going to cause some problems. It's going to cause some serious problems. So there's some strategies that we've been talking about with the agents inside of our network to make sure that we're implementing, because honestly, you don't want to be waiting all the way to here until you get the property on the market, because then you have no idea where you're trying to come in on values, whether the bank should, what a real value is on the property. You're going to have this thing listed for 4 months and not even be able to get it sold because the bank wants too much money. And then the other problem at the very end here, there are provisions within HAFA after the 120 days has expired that that it could revert to an automatic deed in lieu, that they'll get a letter, the borrower will get a letter saying, you know, you can now deed the property back to us now that your 120 days has expired. So there's some definite problems in here. Check out some of my other videos, because I know I'm out of time now, but I'm going to go into some more issues here and things, strategies that you can utilize to make sure you're successful in the HAFA process.